So the NFL had its schedule release, and the way that they compose the schedule is fascinating. The way that they're able to put all the games together is incredibly fascinating. And there was one quote that I saw from the NFL's VP of, I want to pull it up here so I get it right for you guys. The NFL's VP of I forget what his exact title is. I want to make sure I get it right here. He's the VP of Broadcast Planning. His name is Mike North. And he had a quote that I saw. The NFL did a video where they were talking about the schedule where he said, if Howard Katz or Roger Goodell says to us, here's 10 games that I think should be on Sunday Night Football, there's 3.6 million ways to lay out those 10 games. And I think that is insane. Like, that is super, super fascinating to me. Like, the fact that they are able to have that many combinations in existence and then figure out like how to bring those combinations like and put them all together and make the schedule actually come together is awesome. And a lot of those schedules are predetermined. So like the matchups rather, they're based on like rotations. And if you're familiar with the NFL schedule at all, like you kind of know how like you'll play certain divisions and then it rotates every year. So they kind of know who they're gonna play. That's not really where the magic of the schedule comes into play. It's more fascinating just because the way that they kind of figure out when to put the primetime games and where they want to put this and that, like certain matchups and stuff, it's very, very fascinating. So I do think it's pretty cool. Like it's pretty cool that they have that they're able to put that together. But looks like I got Scott back here. Let me bring him back on here. Anyway, all right, got you back there. So yeah, I was just telling him like kind of all the stuff. I don't know if you could hear me, but just like all the different combinations and how crazy everything is. But yeah, it was it's pretty awesome. I feel like the NFL schedule is definitely a fascinating thing that they're able to put together, and especially when the league is worth as much money as it's worth. I think that's even more fascinating. But looks like Scott cannot hear me. Let me see, Scott. Let me see if I can get you. Let me see if I can get you to be able to.
There we go. I got my audio here.
Perfect. All right, so you can hear me now.
Good go.
Cool. So I was just
yes, sir.
Yeah, man, I was just laying out like kind of some of the stuff I touched on in the newsletter, how many different combinations there are for those primetime games and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I did hear you on that, and it is kind of crazy, like, but you see like the 3.6 million ways to lay out those games, and you're like, well, how is that?
It's nuts, right?
You have days of which week that game's going to play on Sunday Night Football. Like, it is like when you do think about it like that is really insane to think of, like the 3.6 million ways to lay out those games. Now, are they going into that amount of those so many possibilities? I surely they're probably not, but it is an interesting factoid that you pulled out there, Nick, in the newsletter.
Doubt.
And guys, like I was saying, the newsletter is a beautiful thing. We put it out Monday through Friday. On Friday, we send out a letter. Otherwise, you can head over. It's our Substack, correct, Nick?
Yes, correct.
To sign up for that newsletter. I tell you what, the newsletter has a lot of interesting takes. Me personally, I use that for a lot of my research, like heading into the season. Hey, that's fantasy football draft this year. And if you don't know about it, you may be behind the eight ball. And so Nick does a great job putting a lot of research into those, citing those things, so you guys can use that information and really excel on the fantasy football field this year. Because that's what we want for all of you guys. For the years left and right, coaches of the years for your fantasy football teams, So if we can help you, that's what we're here. We want to help you because you are the fans. We're the fans. And when we come together,
that's what it's all about, right?
The beautiful thing, right? For sure, absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
But
Scott, I got the Jaguar. I figured it out with the Jaguars here.
Oh yeah, I forgot
So
about that a little
their
bit.
only primetime game that I'm seeing right now is Thursday
Mm.
night football early in the season,
Okay.
September 30th. They're going to play a Thursday
Okay.
night game, which is going to be interesting. Now and we've talked about this before with Amazon kind of being involved a little more in Thursday
Yep.
night football
Yeah.
against the Cincinnati Bengals. So you're going to get the Joe Burrow, Trevor
Okay.
Lawrence matchup that everyone wants, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's early in the season. You get to see the Jaguars, like I said, September 30th in prime time. And so yeah, so that is that one. They
I'm
also, interestingly enough, have a 9:30 a.m. game this year because they play in London, which is
yeah,
part of the thing that we're talking about with the schedule, right? Is
for
like
sure.
all that work goes into the schedule, but at the end of the day, like if you're the Jaguars, like you're, I mean, honestly, like you have a disadvantage there. You have to fly to London. A bunch of the other teams in the NFL
For
don't
sure.
have to go play a game in London. Now, granted,
Yep.
the team you're across from you has the same circumstance, so they got to fly over there
Yep.
too. So there's no excuses. However, I would
Yep.
imagine that week after you play in London is fucking awful. I would imagine that is terrible. And because of that,
yeah.
like that is a disadvantage that happens in the schedule. It's
And
why that schedule is so important and the composition of it is so important.
now, do they have a bye week after that London game?
Ah, that's fascinating. That see, you would think that would be the way to
Because
do it, right? And yet I'm not 100% sure because I don't
yeah,
know that the
that's
NFL really, I don't know. Like I remember there's been years I don't think that's an automatic thing. Like the Bears have played that
no, for
London game
sure.
a lot and I think that they're
Yep.
like, "Hey, we're just back next week." Like I think it's like um,
You go a London game on
you know.
Sunday and a Thursday game following it
So
right
they
up.
do so they will have a bye in between. So they will play in London.
Uh,
But that London turnaround, remember, is there's no bye the week before that. So,
yeah, yeah,
they're gonna play a game on Sunday, and then the following Sunday we're in London.